Does your computer sound like this? That's the sound of performance being left on the table. In this video, I'm going to show you how a cheap, simple upgrade can put up to 15% performance back into your computer and make it feel like a whole new system. So stay with me. So if you're hearing that noise coming out of your computer, chances are you have a stock cooler cooling your CPU. And unfortunately, stock coolers tend to allow your CPU to run above 90 degrees, which is detrimental to your performance and the longevity of your CPU. So when your CPU gets above 90 degrees, the cores start to clock themselves down and they go into protection mode so it doesn't overheat. And this is when you start to lose performance. So this is the computer I put together in my last video. We were testing out the Core Ultra 225F and I decided to use a box cooler with it. And on the very first game, this is what happened. The processor's running at 90 degrees. Holy cow. What is going on here? So our Cyberpunk average with the stock cooler was 150 frames per second at 1080p high settings, and our Cinebench score with the stock cooler was 15,544, and our decibel reading with our stock cooler maxed out at 47.4. Now CPU air coolers come in many different varieties. Some have two fans, some have ARGB, some are big, some are small. But for today's build, we're going with something real simple and cheap. We are going with the Thermalright Assassin X120 Refined SE White Edition. It comes in at a price point of $17.90, and it comes highly recommended. Now, there are two main things you want to consider when buying an air cooler. Number one, will it fit in your case? Now, this air cooler has a total height of 165 millimeters, and my case supports up to 180 millimeters, so we're good there. Number two, will your air cooler support your socket? For example, I have an 1851 socket, which is Intel's latest and greatest, and a Thermalright Assassin will support that socket. So knowing what kind of socket you have is very important before purchasing your air cooler to make sure that it is compatible. Just a special note. This Core Ultra 225F has a total draw power of 121 watts, so this Thermalright Assassin will do fine for cooling it. But if you have a more powerful CPU, like a 14700K, which has a total draw power of 253 watts, you might want to consider a more beefier cooler, maybe even a liquid cooler. Now, I've already gone ahead and installed a new cooler. If you'd like me to do a how-to guide on installing a tower cooler, let me know in the comments below. But for now, let's skip over to the benchmarks and see what kind of performance improvements we got. All right, let's start off with Cinebench R23. This is a 10-minute multi-core stress test. So with the stock cooler, we got a score of 15,544. Now, when we replaced the cooler with the Thermalright Assassin, we got a score of 17,375. 1,831 point increase, or 11.77%. So that's a 12% increase just by replacing the cooler. That is insane. Now, as far as temperatures go, with the stock cooler, after 10 minutes, we topped out at 98 degrees Celsius. Now, with the new Thermalright Assassin, we topped out at 71 degrees Celsius, which makes that a 27 degrees Celsius improvement. That is fantastic. So what about real-world performance? So here we are in Cyberpunk, and I have a split screen up. On the right, we have the stock cooler, and on the left, we have the new cooler. And we're going to pay attention to a few things. We're going to pay attention to temperatures, and we're going to pay attention to clock speeds. So on the right, we are at 90 degrees Celsius, and the clock speeds are already clocking down to 4154. On the left, we have the new CPU cooler. We have a temperature of 64 degrees, and the clock speeds are maintaining 4,649 megahertz. And that's what we want. When those clock speeds start to drop, and that is when we lose performance. All right, so by the end of the run, this is what we had. We had, for the stock cooler, an average FPS of 150 frames per second. The Thermalright Assassin had an average FPS of 160 frames per second, which is a 7% increase on the frames. We had a max temperature of 91 degrees Celsius on the stock cooler, and we had a max temp of 67 degrees Celsius on the Thermalright Assassin. That's a 26% decrease in temperature. That is amazing. And as far as decibels are concerned, we maxed out at 47.9 on the stock and 41.6 on the Thermalright Assassin, so we had a 13% decrease in noise level, which is actually pretty substantial. So wow, yeah, all that for $18. That is amazing. So what did we learn here today? Well, we learned that we should never use the Intel stock cooler because we will lose performance. And that brings me to the end of the video, ladies and gentlemen. So if you like what I'm doing, please subscribe because it helps out the channel and you get notified when I create new content. And with that said, you all have a great day and thanks for watching. Bye now.